Okay, so today I wanted to speak about GCSEs, and right now it's exam time. It's just about to finish, and if you're watching this, you probably have finished your exams or they're coming up. And I just want to give some advice from a maths teacher about what are GCSEs and why do we do them. So first of all, these apply for every single exam that you're probably going to do in your life. Um, so the first thing that I want to say is that GCSEs are not as important as you think they are. Right now, the teachers are putting so much pressure onto you to do good, and everyone around you in your cohort and mainly your family are putting so much pressure on you that this is going to define the rest of your life. Um, and in a way, it does, and in a way, it doesn't. So first of all, I want to speak about why it doesn't. First of all, what's the reasoning behind everyone telling you to get GCSEs and to do good? You have to look at the motivations of everyone. First of all, your family, they just want what's good for you. Me, I come from an immigrant background. So the only way to achieve success is through education, because when you come from a war-torn background or anything where it has anything bad like that's happened in the country, the way that people live is through being a student and getting scholarships and apprenticeships. So that's one reason. That's the motivation of your family. That's why they want you to do good, because in their eyes, success is GCSEs, is education, which is completely understandable. The next motivation is your teachers. What are their motivations for saying you need to get good GCSEs? Well, it's pretty clear. It's part of their job. They need you to do good because it reflects on them. I know as a teacher I'm saying this, but because I'm a tutor, I have a bit more personal relationship with my students in terms of I do want them to do well because I see the potential in them. But as a secondary effect, it is part of my job for them to do good. So that's the number one motivation for your teachers. Your teachers just want you to do good because if they don't do good, then their job is on the line and their neck is on the line, and that's how they earn their wages. And it reflects on the school, of course. The school just want to say that our students, they want to put it on their newsletter that our students went to this London university and our students went to Cambridge and Oxford, because it gives a good reputation for the school. So that's another reason, or behind the motivations of your school and your teachers and then your parents. Now I want to give some advice. Also, GCSEs do not define you getting a job. About 90% of jobs don't require GCSEs. They never ask you for it. These things come with age and experience. So if you say that you've worked in a job, let's say you've worked in a cafe and then you apply to another cafe, they're not going to ask you for your GCSEs. They're just going to say, have you worked in a cafe? So my next point is that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Um, so through networking and speaking to people and having these experiences, that's the best way of how you're going to define the rest of your life in terms of jobs. Now, a question that I always get asked is, how do I even get a job? Well, me personally, I'm still looking for a job because I'm not happy with my job. I don't think I would ever be, because that's just human nature. But if you do want a job, then first thing, of course, you have to start applying. That's pretty self-explanatory, but you have to apply for everything. It doesn't matter what field you want, you need to get your foot in the door, as they say. You need to apply for everything, and then from there you can start moving around, but you need to start getting a base and your foundation. You need anything that's going to take you. Now, if you feel like nothing is taking you, then you can look into studying a skill. If you study a skill, then you will end up getting a job, such as a tradesperson or a pharmacist or something like that. Becoming skilled in something, that's the quickest way to get a job nowadays, because I don't think that applying everywhere works anymore. Entry level jobs are completely non-existent, and they're all going to the people who are about 30 to 40 years old, because they just have experience in working, and at the same time they don't have any ceiling, so they're not going to ever leave that job. Obviously the employer wants them to work there forever, and in that age bracket, they don't really care about progression anymore compared to you, who is in your 20s and 16 plus, looking for a job. So yeah. Now, the last thing that I want to speak about is, why are GCSEs actually good? You might not want to hear this, but as a teacher, I do want to say that GCSEs teach you, the number one thing that they teach you is pattern recognition. Now, how do I explain this? If you do your exam questions, a lot of the time, if you've done all the exam papers the subject has to offer, you'll see that so many of them are repeated because they can only test you on so much. And if you memorize these exam questions, if you pattern recognize, how these questions come up and what it's asking, then technically you don't even need to be smart. You just need to recognize the patterns, and keep repeating that flow and repeating the skills that you've learned. For example, algebra, you know that there's only four operations in maths. You're going to be using those four operations. Um, and that's essentially what GCSE is. It just teaches you how to recognize patterns. The next thing that I want to say is that GCSE teaches you critical thinking. Now this is under AO3, and this is the one that most students hate because it's the last part of the question and they can never relate it back to the question. Now critical thinking and reasoning is really important because it shows you how do you actually have a grasp on the question. If the question is talking about change in a shop, how does the part three, the AO3, actually relate to that question and what's actually happening? And that's the part that most students struggled on. I know that as a GCSE student, when I was doing those questions, that was the part that I hated the most, the reasoning part. But at the same time, that's the thing that's going to develop you the most because it shows that you really have a grip on the question and you understand what it's saying. At the same time, most of the time, about 90% of the time, it's just logic based. So if you use some critical thinking and reasoning, you will probably get those answers and get those few marks. Now, I just want to say that GCSEs will affect your future. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's a reflection of how hard you will work. This is the first time in your life that you are doing exams. This is the first time that you're being tested under pressure. This is the first time that people have expectations of you. And it's about how do you rise under the pressure. A lot of students, they get depressed and they have anxiety. Anxiety is normal, but it's about how do you channel that anxiety? How do you channel even the anger that you have? How do you use it for good? Because that's what you need to do. This is the first time in your life you've been under pressure. How do you respond to that pressure? It feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, but it will pass as it does. And once the exams are done, you're probably going to have the best summer of your life. And then it's on to the next stage in terms of working or studying. So, yeah, I just want to say that GCSEs are important and they will reflect on you. Why? Because it shows how hard you will work. If you don't work hard now, you're not going to work hard in the future. Don't think that when you hit 18, you're going to start working hard because right now it is technically the easiest time of your life right now, the life that you're living. And it's only going to get harder coming from an adult. But as a Muslim now, you just need to pray to Allah and remember the names of Allah. Allah is Razaq and Allah is Rabb. He nurtures you and He provides your blessings. So if you fail your exam, then it was written because that is the sixth article of Creed is Qadr. So believing that everything is predetermined. But of course we have free will. So don't use that as an excuse to just play PlayStation all day and forget those exams. Because I know some people, when I did my exams, it was the height of Fortnite season. So people weren't revising and they were just playing Fortnite. But that's another story. Hopefully you guys did well in your exams and leave the rest to Allah.